Alrighty-o, Sunday is podcast day. As you know, every Sunday I record this little podcast where I reflect on my week, where I talk about things that are currently on my mind and things that I'm trying to work on, things that I'm trying to improve in, things that are relevant for you out there, hopefully. So we can have a little bit of an exchange, which resources we're using for personal development, how the progress is looking, which things we are struggling with, so we don't feel like we're the only one in this battle for self-improvement, but rather it's a community. Because after all, this is what I'm trying to build with this channel. So that being said, let's launch right into this podcast on a Sunday. And I gotta say, I'm super stressed, which is weird for a Sunday. You shouldn't feel stressed pretty much on any Sunday, I think. Even Saturdays is fine. Saturdays I often spend working, even though it's, not office hour normally. But I work on these YouTube videos, I work on other things related to my company, so that's fine for me. But Sunday I really try to make a chill day. Not so tonight, or today rather, because I had to still keep filming for different videos that I already started shooting either yesterday or a couple of weeks ago already. So I had these like 3 different videos with 3 different storylines that I kind of wanted to work on today, and I needed to, fill in different parts of the video that I shot previously and that I didn't like, for example, and then there were lighting issues because one thing is supposed to be in the morning, but now I filmed it at like 2:30 p.m., which is already pretty dark here in Sweden around January. So there were all these issues, and then I realized like, okay, actually in this video I was wearing different clothes, so now it looks weird that I'm wearing a different shirt. All these things went through my head, and I tried to juggle all these balls up in the air. But I think I did a pretty good job, even though it stressed the hell out of me, and I was like logistic-wise and filming-wise a little bit challenging. This is the last video that I'm gonna shoot today. I already shot one that I'm gonna publish later this week, and then the second video that I was shooting for today was the video about the meditation month that I'm doing right now and how that is coming about and how that is going. I try to kind of document my progress over the entire month, so you guys can actually see the development when I publish that video, and it's not just me sitting down like, okay, this is how I experienced it, this is how it went, chronologically kind of narrating it. But I really want you to be part of this journey. I really want you to feel like you're there with me. So for that I need to shoot small little bits and pieces here and there. And then in the end, I'm gonna mash them all together into a hopefully nice video experience for you guys. So I was shooting that as well earlier. But now I'm gonna lean back, I'm gonna do this podcast, and I'm gonna, just reflect a bit. So why don't we just jump right into the meditation month and how that is going? Because now it's pretty much half time. What is it today? The 13th, I think? 13th of January. So I've had about 2 weeks of meditation now. I try to go for an hour every single day, and I gotta say, it's getting better. I'm surprised how much progress you can make with such a weird skill to develop, in a sense. I mean, the skill that you're trying to develop when you meditate is pretty much sitting still and not getting too freaked out by that stillness in your mind. And usually your mind is not still at all. I mean, usually my mind is racing. But I gotta say, after 2 weeks, I can see that there is progress being made. I can see that there are changes happening. I can see that I'm a lot calmer during the 20-minute sessions that I'm doing. So that's definitely something good. And I'm excited to see how that progresses in the next 2 weeks and see how it comes about until the end of January, where I'm gonna round this whole thing up. Not going to give up meditation completely. I still try to do it daily afterwards for the rest of the year, and hopefully after that as well. But I'm not going to do the whole hour, because an hour really is tough. I think I talked about that a lot already last week in the podcast, so I'm not going to dive too much into it here. I'm also going to talk about it in the video when it's coming up, 1st of February, hopefully. But right now, let me just say there is progress. It's definitely a skill that you can progress in, that you can develop, and that's actually quite exciting to develop, because after a while you start enjoying these sessions. You start looking forward to your lunch break, where you get to sit down quietly in a corner like a weirdo in the office and just be alone with your mind for 20 minutes. Sorry, let me just have a sip of coffee. So yeah, that's what I've been pretty much focusing on for this week. Of course, there's other things going on. I try to still read every day about half an hour on the subway, or actually it amounts to more than half an hour, because the subway ride to work alone is half an hour and then half an hour back. So usually it's like 45 minutes, which is okay, I think. I tried to finally finish the Swedish book that has been on my night shelf forever, but I still haven't gotten around to actually completing it. It just takes me so long to read in a different language. I mean, English is no problem anymore, even though my mother tongue is German, but Swedish I'm still struggling with. Even though I can read it quite fluently, it just takes a lot longer. So I gotta force myself to finish that quickly and then start with a new book there. But this is also something that I wanted to talk about a bit more in detail in this podcast today. The stress of personal development and self-improvement. Because I feel like a lot of people don't actually go with what they enjoy doing. They don't go with what they love necessarily, but they go with what they think they should be doing, or what society tells them to do, or what their friends are kind of peer pressuring them into. There's all these different forces that are trying to push us into one direction or another. So I've seen this in other people happening, and I start to notice it myself, that you kind of get stressed out by too much personal development if you're into it, you know? Like you try to learn a different language, so you're using all these apps for it, and then you're trying to do a hobby, and that takes a lot of time. Like for me it is YouTube, but then you also try to do sports, and then you try to eat healthy, but for that you need more time for cooking, and you need to buy good groceries. Like all of these things actually take a lot of energy out of you, a lot of time out of your daily schedule. So I do think that there is too much personal development. There is something, it is possible to go a little bit overboard, and the problem with that is that usually when you get to that point where you just feel stressed out by how much you're taking on and how much you're trying to improve yourself, you get so frustrated and irritated by the whole thing that you just drop all of it, which is of course not what we're trying to accomplish. So I think a way better approach is to go for just one thing at a time, and then over time you can scale it up slowly. So this is a little bit what I'm trying to do with my monthly challenges. I'm not gonna start, all these different habits at once, because it takes a while to implement them and to make them sort of easier, because it doesn't require so much willpower and actual dedication and focus anymore to just do them. After a while it just becomes normal part of your daily routine. But I do it one habit at a time. And it takes between 30 and up to 90 days to implement one of these habits. So I try to not overload myself. Which is sometimes difficult, because you're coming home from work and then you want to be as efficient as possible with your free time. You kind of get this like leisure time stress, that you want to see friends, and you want to do this, and you want to read that, and you want to improve on this. So you do have a very limited time set aside in your daily schedule, usually when you're working 8-9 hours every day. So you try to squeeze as much as possible into it. But I do think that that's not entirely the right approach. So that's why I mentioned earlier in this video that for me it's important to have at least one day, usually on the weekend, where I just chill and do whatever I want. And that's still not lying on the couch and watching Netflix for me, but it is hanging out with friends. It is going for a coffee with somebody that I haven't spoken to in a long time. It is going to see a movie like I did yesterday with a couple of friends. So all of that kind of helps me to relax and helps me to take my mind off of the things that I'm working on at the same time. And then, the new week you dive back into your routine and the things that you're working on, the things that you're trying to improve on. So, just as a reminder, do one thing at a time and don't try to take on too much at once, because that might lead to you not doing anything in the end and just quitting it altogether, which is not what we're trying to do here. There is actually a really good book about that I would recommend. It's not exactly about time management or how much you can do at the same time, juggling a lot of balls. But it is about the problem when we start something anew and we get super excited by it and we really get into it and we're like, wow, I'm making so much progress, this is so cool. And then after a while, the progress that was first very steep like this kind of flattens, and then you actually start getting worse. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? How can I keep working on developing this skill or this habit, and I'm actually deteriorating in my skill ability? What is going on there? How can we get worse at something if we practice it more? So the book that I'm recommending to you, it's a very, very thin and short book. I think it has less than 100 pages. It's by Seth Godin, who mostly writes about marketing-related things, but also personal development. Very entertaining writer and very good speaker as well, if you want to check out his TED Talks. But he wrote a book called The Dip, which is exactly that phenomenon of kind of plateauing in your skill and then actually dipping a little bit before you ramp it up again and you reach a whole new level of skill. But what this book is about is that so many people only work on their skills at the very beginning until they reach that dip. And then they get so frustrated by it that they don't want to do it anymore, and they start dropping out and they start doing something completely new, and they go with that new skill until they reach that dip again, and then again they drop out. So the message essentially of his book is hang in there. You gotta hang in there, you gotta see it all the way through, and you gotta have that long-term perspective in order to really reach mastery or anything close to mastery in any particular skill. So this is also something, I just wanted to share with you, because I see so many people who get super excited about something and they just don't have the stomach to also experience some tough times, They just don't have the stamina to say, okay, right now it sucks, but I'm gonna sit it out and I'm gonna hang in there, I'm gonna keep at it, and eventually I'm gonna get out of that valley that dip is, and I'm gonna reach levels of abilities that I never thought was possible. So in a sense, also why I'm thinking about this right now is because I feel like that a little bit with YouTube. It is a bit stressful to work full-time and keep up my recording and publishing schedule at the same time. I'm not gonna lie about that. I mean, I have a 40-hour work week now, and I can't really film during the weeks because it's too dark. So I have to film everything on the weekend, but to film 2 to 3 videos every weekend, it's not easy, first of all, you have to have all this creative energy and actually come up with ideas. But then you also have to record it, and you have to produce it, and you have to edit it, and you have to refilm some parts of it maybe. Then you have to publish it, you have to schedule all the publishing, have to create the thumbnails, have to create a good and enticing title, have to share it on social media. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into these rather short videos that I'm making. So I'm gonna hang in there. I'm gonna see it through, and I'm gonna have a very long-term approach about it. But there are ups and downs in this, hopefully, progress that I'm making. And right now I feel like I'm more in a dip than in a steep improvement. Also, it's quite difficult to see where this improvement and that next level may lie if you spend the entire week thinking about something else. Like, I never really realized how much a job is occupying your mind until I started working now again. Because before that, I was thinking about my company and these YouTube videos and personal development in general pretty much 24/7. I was always looking for the next thing. I was always looking for a new and interesting angle about it. And now that I'm working, normal office hours, coming home around 6, you just don't have the mental capacity to think a lot about these things anymore. Because then you, as I mentioned, have all these other things that you want to do as well. Friends, relationship, gym, cooking, yada, yada, yada. And where do you find time to actually think about what you want to do next and not just get stuck in a rut, It's pretty easy to lean back and keep doing what you're doing, but doing what you're doing is not enough. If you're doing what you've always done, you're going to get the results you've always gotten. And that's not what I want. I want to get more results. I want to get more exposure. I want to get better. And for that, you have to try things you've never done. And you have to put yourself out there, and you have to fail, and then you have to iterate and try again. So this is very difficult to do when you don't necessarily have the time and the freedom and the mental capacity to do that. So I guess what I'm saying with that is pretty much to really use the time that you have, especially when you're very, very young. And by that I mean, until you're maybe 26 and you actually start your first full-time job. Use that time to go deep into the things that you're interested in and get as good as humanly possible with the time that you have. Because later on, it's going to be very, very tough to break out of that hamster wheel, that rat race, and say, okay, I'm going to quit whatever job I have, what I did like about 2 years ago, and I'm going to try to make this other thing work, and I'm going to try to build a skill with that I can actually have a job out of. So use the time when you're young. Do as much as possible when you're young. Try to find out what you're really, really into, and then just go for that. And try to build as much skill as you can with the time that you have. So, yeah, because people really underestimate how draining a job can be. And of course, at the same time, it's energizing and it's inspiring and you learn a lot of things. I'm not saying that's not true. But what I'm saying is that there's really not that much more you can do other than work and spend time with the people that you love in your life, and then maybe eat and sleep and work out a little bit. People are like, oh yeah, you should do that and you should do this. And maybe if you just stop watching Netflix, then you suddenly have like all this time that at your hands that you never realized. I don't think that's true, at least not for me. I don't have Netflix, I don't watch TV. Yes, I do spend time on social media, but it might be an hour a day right now. It's not like 6 hours every day. So I'm trying to find the amount of time that is needed for me to figure things out and to actually push myself further and try to, challenge myself a little bit, but it is tough. All right. That being said, moving on, plowing ahead here. What else do I have on my list of things that I wanted to talk about? Yes. Talking about job. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make some more videos in the future about how to actually find out what the right career might be for you, what job you should consider doing, and what that depends on. Because I think it is very difficult looking from the outside in, like not being in the job market, looking at the what is the word? The possible jobs that you're gonna have in the future, to imagine what you might actually like and what factors are really relevant. Because you do of course have like hard factors, for example, like the money that you make with it, the income that it generates, then you have status questions if that is of any importance to you. But then you also have things like, okay, what kind of personality do I have and what kind of job kind of fits that personality? How ambitious am I? Am I fine with a job like teaching, which can be really challenging and is of huge value to society and pays quite well, at least in the countries where I lived. But at the same time, you're not progressing much. You pretty much do the same job when you're 27 and you start working as when you're 67 and you're about to retire. So all of these things are things that you need to consider when thinking about the perfect career for yourself and your unique personality. So I'm gonna make some more videos about that in the future, some of the short videos that I usually publish during the week. So gonna reflect a little bit more on that for myself also, and how I ended up doing what I do right now and what I think about what I'm doing right now. I mean, on the one side, having my own business and doing YouTube here, but also the company that I work for, which essentially is a bank that does online payments. So, what are the pros, what are the cons for each kind of different career? All right, but I guess that is pretty much it already from the podcast this week. I'm sorry if it's a little bit short, but this is also a little bit due to the fact that I just mentioned that the entire week my mind is occupied by work that has pretty much nothing to do with personal development directly. Indirectly, there are parts of every job that you can, work on in terms of personal development and that are highly relevant and highly interesting for people who are into personal development, such as, leadership and collaboration and social interaction and focus and productivity. All these different aspects are relevant to doing your job well, but directly my mind is occupied with other things when I'm at work. So this kind of leads me to not having that much to say anymore about personal development right now, but this is also something that I'm gonna work on. Maybe with a diary, maybe with reflecting time that I put aside during the day. We'll see. I'm going to keep you updated, but for now I don't want to drag out this podcast unnecessarily. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely Sunday, and I'm going to see you next Sunday for another episode of the podcast. But during the week, make sure that you watch out for at least one, maybe two videos, a little bit shorter, that are coming out where I share some more insights that I've gained recently. Until then, talk to you next time.